Put-a-da-doom, 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 doom, doom, doom.
Is that your way of waking up yourself? Yourself up, sorry. It's been a day. Been a day.
Hindi enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hi, welcome again to Outsourcing and More. My name is Penny.
My name is Francis. And thank you once again for tuning in wherever you are in internet land.
Yeah. Yeah, so today, our topic
Our topic.
is no, how virtual, which is our company, how we actually retain our customers.
Yeah. I've thought about the topic, and I was kind of thinking to myself, does it sound more like what's the retention plan? Or
Maybe.
is it more, or maybe I tend to think of it very differently because we have had some very successful relationships
With clients, yes.
with clients. Yes, I mean we've had some, then we lost some, then we kind of just chalked it up to experience. That's how that relationship started and ended. But I've also, since the topic is like our guide to retaining customers, I mean, I kind of want to think about like the customers that we have not retained. Is that like
Oh, you can look at both, but maybe let's start there.
yeah, sure. Okay. So, to date, how many customers do we have as a company?
I don't know. Why do you ask me?
I know that we have at least eight. At least eight.
Yeah, and
And then
then
give
one
or take
that comes in
some,
as a
yeah,
project based, yeah.
comes and goes. But we know that they're still a client because they're there
Yeah,
the
when they
job
need, yeah.
when they need us. Yeah. So I am very happy to say that over the years we have built some very successful relationships. We have our bread and butter clients, and then the clients that are bread or butter,
Yeah,
but not both. I think that um, we probably have something to say in terms of how these clients have maintained successful relationships and how we've retained them. Um, let's talk about it in the general sense. What do you feel has been our most successful recipe in terms of retaining a customer, a client?
our current clients. I think the number one thing is we really do take the time and effort to understand their business and what they need. So it's not just, oh, okay, we need this, we need that. Okay,
It's also our selling point.
yeah, it's not like, okay, we'll hire customer support, but the question there is, what customer support
Yeah.
are they wanting? Like, what is their product? So we do really take time to understand who we're working with or we're partnering with.
See, the thing is, one possible big mistake is assuming that when the client asks one thing, that's exactly what they need. You know, when you say, I mean, customer support, it's like a very, very vague ask.
Some of them.
Yeah, and some of them have vague asks as well. And if you're, if you're new to freelancing, sometimes you'd find yourself looking like everybody says, looking for rockstar customer support, rockstar VA. But it's not until you drill down
Yes.
into the job description that you actually find out what they're looking
yes.
for. And sometimes even then, it's not always giving you like a clear picture. And you kind of always want to dive into a relationship knowing exactly what you're going to get out of it. Like, is it answering phones or other channels for
Yeah, it could
support?
be as basic as that. What
Or-
business hours are we covering? It could
Yeah.
be as basic as those. But,
But it-
what exactly is the purpose and what is their goal?
Yeah, and what
in
kind of
getting these,
skill
yeah.
set are you actually
Yes.
looking for? I mean, apart from being able to answer and give answers in a timely manner, does the question also involve around like what skill sets do they actually need? Do they need administrative tasks?
Yes.
Do they need customer services? What kind of customers do you normally deal with? Are they easy to deal with? Or do you almost always end up with escalations? Do you have angry customers that you have to deal with all the time? Or are these like chill sort of customers? Are they knowledgeable about your product?
Yeah.
Or is this something that you have to actively educate your customers on?
Yes.
I mean, it depends on, of course, like what age or what stage your client is in terms of selling their product or service.
Mm-hmm.
Wherein, you know, I mean, just going back to like, are your customers actually knowledgeable, or are these a bunch of customers that you sold the product to, and are now learning how to use,
Yes.
right? And that,
Because you may have customers that are, you may have a platform or a tech app or a web app, but your customers aren't technically savvy, so that that means a
a
different,
lot of hand
yeah,
holding.
a lot of white glove customer support.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing too. Do they separate their customers based on like the VIPs or the,
Mm-hmm.
versus, and because if they're VIPs, they're also treated differently. So
Or what extent do you have to educate your customers
yes.
before you say, I need to hand this off to a higher tier support level? So that begs the question: how much knowledge do the agents that you're supplying have to have? What kind of knowledge should they have about your company before escalating? Because in some ways, tier one support could just be shuffling around tickets, being able to understand which LOB or line of business does this question fall under, and is it the purview of a different person altogether?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not as crazy. You just have to say, hi, how can I help you? And they say, product reset. Then you can do that. And then they say, something's broken. Do you fix that yourself, or do you diagnose and then escalate? Right?
Yeah.
And uh, that's really what I think sets us apart, because we don't set our agents up for failure by not knowing the
Yeah.
full boundary
Yes.
of
Of what
what they're
there's,
covering.
yeah, what
Yeah.
they're covering. Yes.
Okay, I'm
The
done.
other the other thing is also understanding what the client's expectations are, and being very vocal about what we're expecting. Like for example, just on our end, if we know that our agents need certain type of tools, access to this and that, we definitely would be vocal to our clients about it.
Or do they need not innate? Do they already need extensive knowledge
Yeah.
to certain applications that they need in order to function
Yes. To do
for
their
for
job
for a
well.
job? Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing there is understanding their expectations of how the relationship is going to be. Would it be just getting, agents for them and they'll be handling those agents, or
Or
would
are
we
they
be
hands off?
hands off and they will be managing the agents? Although, even if they say that we're not, that they're going to be managing the agents themselves, like there's going to be a manager in house, we do our part as well
In terms of
in terms of
managing
managing them,
the people.
yeah,
Yes.
our people, because they're still our agents.
Yeah. I mean, that's the reason why we're charging X amount in order to to manage their business as well. I think one thing that I know that they appreciate is that we're also very transparent in terms of what we need from them in
Yes, we
order
are
to
very transparent.
run our job. Transparency for me has always been key.
Yeah.
It's key in terms of not setting the wrong precedents
Yes.
in terms of handling, because sometimes the best, well, number one, the most important is making like the right impression with your client, right? That you have the capacity to handle their account.
Yes.
The problem is when the handoff starts,
Yes.
and then they start asking for things that you never talked about in the
Yes.
first place, like asking for computers.
Yes. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that in the span of the relationship, nothing's going to change, right?
Yes.
But the thing is to start right, to understand expectations, understand who the company is, and what they're expecting, like what we're expecting from them and what they're expecting from us.
Yes.
That's the very, very start, right? But within that span of the relationship, when you're comfortable with one another and there's already trust because we've been working together, of course, the scope of work is going to change.
The scope of work might change, and a lot of times it would change for the better,
Yes.
because you start building that relationship with the client, and then they find out what else are you capable of.
Yes.
They might say, we want to look into other avenues where you can provide service. I think when you reach that part, you know that you're already doing
Mm.
something well, something really right by your
Yes.
customer. What are your key indications? They either want to give you more hours
Mm-hmm.
or more headcount,
Or had counted in a different department. Yeah,
headcounts in
that's
different
yeah.
LOBs. Yes. Um, we strive in terms of the business development sense to not just say, okay, this is what we've given you and this is how we're running it.
Mm-hmm.
There's always an opportunity to say, can we schedule a meeting and find out more about your business so that we can see if we can provide more value
Yeah.
to your company.
I think the other thing that we've also been doing is we're also as we mentioned in some of our other episodes, we are very curious. And so even if we have agents there, it's not just them doing the customer support or whatever their
Mm-hmm.
scope to do. We do give input, as we've said, we're very transparent input regarding how those agents are handled, or even the processes that those agents go
Yes.
through, and how we can actually streamline them or improve them.
Mm-hmm.
So when our clients partner with us, it's not just really here's agent one, here's agent two.
Yeah.
It's really also looking at the entirety of what our agents are doing, and
Yes.
sometimes even outside, depending on who the client is and how open they are with suggestions and recommendations. But most of the time, most of the time, looking at what our agents are doing, what processes they're following, what isn't working or what needs to be improved, and then communicating that with the
Mm-hmm.
client.
I think another successful retention, I'm just gonna call it right now, like building a successful relationship with
Relationship.
your client is to be able to provide additional value to the service that you're
Yes.
providing. And when we say additional value, just remember that when takes two to tango, two people to build a relationship with each other. The task isn't always for them to give their marching orders and that we
Mm.
execute, right? That's a broken system. There should always be a loop, an opportunity for feedback
Yes.
coming from us. So you don't just okay run, 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 run. You wanna encourage your team, your agents to be able to take down notes and
Mm-hmm.
opportunities
Yeah.
and feedback from other
I
customers
mean,
as well.
that's one of the values that we look for when we're hiring. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just hiring people that we hire people that can do the job, but also be
A little
able
bit
to
beyond.
identify, yeah, a little bit beyond, which is being able to identify process gaps or whatever, and be
Mm-hmm.
able to communicate that with the client, if not with the client, with us, so that we can go ahead and go to the
Mm-hmm.
client and work with them on it.
Yep. One thing that I see more is that being able to communicate to your client that we are heavily vested on their success
Yes.
as well. And
Yes.
when we say we're vested in their success, uh, how do you communicate to them that we're doing the job that you asked us to do, but I think we could do it
Better.
better
Yeah.
if we do it this way? I mean, it still goes back to that feedback loop thing, being able to add additional value by saying, hey, we think your product could be better if we also implemented this. I mean, if you have the perfect, nobody has the perfect product. Nobody has the perfect product anyway, and especially if you're a startup,
You
you tend to
strive to,
start up.
yeah, to always iterate on
Yeah.
your product.
And
Yeah.
because they usually tend to start lean.
Yeah.
And when you start lean, you focus on what you're able to put out as a product, but always with the intention of, of building better,
Yeah, refining that product.
refining the product, adding additional features, for
Yes.
example. And it helps to know that, that because usually support, our own bread and butter is the one who is directly in front of their customer base, that they
Mm-hmm.
should be able to give that sort of feedback coming
Yes.
from their customer base as well. And, we've always said, I understand that these are the talking points that you want to give
Mm-hmm.
to your agents, but maybe it's not being received well. Or if it's being received, it can be better if we suggest that we do this instead.
Yes.
And I think that's mostly because they're getting the value for their money. A lot of these companies think, oh, we don't have enough capacity for support, therefore please provide
Mm.
us with customer support. But at the same time, sometimes they fail to see that a lot of the opportunities for improvement also come from the user endpoints,
Yes.
where they say this is not a great experience. You have to be able to take those and put them together and say, hey client, here's some way to better your, because how what does that do? It takes all of those feedback, turns them into meaningful data for their product team to be able to work
Yes.
on and provide, and therefore that provides an opportunity for their people, for their customers to be heard
Mm-hmm.
and to get them the services that they've wanted to out of that product as well.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is happening right now with our teams is that um, they're not really treated as a different team.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually in the business
Mm-hmm.
and talking to people in house, and
Yes.
able to reach out to people in house and ask questions,
Mm-hmm.
and figure out why it's being done this way.
Mm-hmm.
I think that involvement actually is a better relationship, rather than being a separate team and having separate processes and separate trainings and the like, because I mean we're able to give that feedback if the only way that we're able to give that feedback is if we understand, right?
And are like knee deep into neck
Yes.
deep into their business as well. One thing that you might not be a whole team, but you might be a single person
Yes.
working for a client, and that's fine. It's also a means of retention, but for me, visibility is key.
Yes.
Visibility
Yes.
will
We've
always
drilled
be key.
this to
Always,
our
all the time. You
agents.
build that relationship by
Yes.
letting them know that you are there, that you are present,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're working with clients in the US.
Yes.
Do you know what's separating you from your client? It's not just your computer and the lack of access.
Mm.
It's several thousand miles
Mm-hmm.
of distance between you and your client. So what do you do in order to assure them of your presence, of your visibility?
Mm-hmm.
You always, you look at the channels where you communicate and let them know that you're there. If
Yes.
you're a business owner, for example, you decided to outsource your service, the worst thing that can happen to you is not feel that you're getting your money's worth
Yes.
by, you look for your agent and then he's not there,
Yeah, he
and
hasn't
it might
responded for an hour. Yeah.
hasn't been responding. That's the worst feeling ever.
Mm.
So make sure always that they know where you are, or at the very least they know exactly when you can be reached, how you can be reached, and what instances is it inappropriate maybe to get in touch with you. For example, being able to set those boundaries, but at the same time being able to set maximum visibility. You know what we always tell our agents? You know
Yes,
what you
can you
do?
do?
Say good morning
Yeah,
when
say
it's
good
9
morning.
a.m.
Yeah.
Say, I will be away from my keyboard if I have to be away from my keyboard for 5 minutes. If you have an emergency, just let them know. The important thing is that you always let them know. You have to tear apart as much of that
Distance, or
distance.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that we do pretty well is being able to align with the language of the client. And what I mean by that is some of our clients are very, very data driven,
Oh yeah.
right? And some of them would be good with this is the process, this is what we're changing,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll be good with that. But some of them would be, well, most of our performances are data driven. But
Mm-hmm.
there are those that before they say yes to whatever you want for any initiative that you want, you have to be able to, present data and things like that. So
Oh, I
we
know what
know,
you're talking about.
yeah, we know our clients pretty well to know how to communicate with them in a way that would resonate. I guess
Yes.
is the right term for it. Resonate with them, and that they can see the value that we're trying to give to
Yeah.
our clients.
And one thing, for me personally, is because again we usually handle support based
Yes.
roles, is to be able to tell them again, this is working, this is not working, but at the same time understanding who their end user base is and
Yes.
how they're about, and that is talking to them in a specific tone helping or
Mm-hmm.
detracting from the experience.
Yes.
And in a way, I keep harping on that all the time, because you want to be able to provide them with a good experience, because
Mm-hmm.
you're an extension of the client. When you are on the phone, chat, email, whatever channel that you're on, is to be able to communicate to their end users and provide value and have them build their own loyalty to the to your customer as well,
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, everything's about revenue. Every customer who remains a loyal customer equals revenue.
Yes.
Any customer that you pull out from the brink of attrition is additional revenue.
Yes.
But at the same time, you also want to highlight that and let them know, okay, we were able to save this
Yes.
customer from attriting. And that for me is, like, don't be afraid to brag about those accomplishments,
Yes.
because it lets your client know that you provided value in this manner,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
For me, that's one thing. And for us as a business, one thing that we've always insisted on, uh, going back to a little bit about the transparency and being able to be visible, is to keep in touch with your clients.
Yes.
Like a lot of times you're running, you gave them 5 agents, and then is that it?
Yeah.
Is that the relationship? No, we ask and almost always insist on setting up meetings
Yes.
to be able to
Yes.
say, how are you? And sometimes a lot of those meetings actually end up with, okay, how are you? How's the agents going?
Mm-hmm.
And then you just ask them, how else can we provide value? Are you foreseeing additional volume, for
Mm-hmm.
example? And I think being able to set that monthly communication again closes whatever gaps that we have
Yes.
in terms of, in terms of what are they doing on that side of the world, if
Yes.
they, and I take it as
And also
positive
like
feed.
closes that possibility of any doubt about the performance of the team, because we are keeping in touch.
Yeah.
Because I always tell this to people: the only way that I can improve something is if I either see it or you tell me about it.
Yes.
Right. And so the communication with clients it's two-way. We give them feedback regarding what we're hearing from our agents, regarding the process that they're handling, but also our clients giving us feedback about how our agents are performing and how we can be better, and how we can operate better
Yep.
for their company.
And insist on the feedback.
Yes.
I would always insist on the
Yes.
feedback. It's not always gonna happen wherein when you start a relationship with a new client, that everything's going to be hunky dory. And you're like, okay, we're answering questions. A lot of times you'll actually hit walls and pitfalls and blockers, like, that prevent you from servicing your end customers perfectly. You need to be able to tell them we're having trouble
Yeah.
answering issues like this, and it's
Yes.
because your product sucks.
Yeah.
And I mean this in the best way possible. Yeah.
Probably not in those words, but
Yeah, no, obviously not in those words. I'm kidding. But what you mean is, like, there's a certain aspect of your product that's not providing a good
Yes.
experience. And by not being able to provide your customers a good experience, we're not able to provide a great experience, or sometimes we're blocked from being able to service customers the way that they want to, and we want to be able to communicate that as well, and then work with the client to find solutions around those issues as well.
And sometimes the feedback that we give them is based from all of our from our experiences from other accounts, or even our own personal experience working customer support. Because sometimes what happens with companies is, since they've been doing this for so long, sometimes they fail to review what they've been doing, and
Review, iterate, and
because
improve.
companies are always changing, right?
Yes.
Especially for startups, it's growing and scaling.
Yes.
And so sometimes when we come in, that's our opportunity to spot those things and for them to review, is this process still worthwhile doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not to mention that a lot of them are heavily focused on the product
Yes.
side.
Yes, they are.
Therefore, we come in, we're management and owning the process for that whatever outsourced process we're looking at, and then we say these are opportunities for improvement, and we
Yes.
have to be able to tell them that, because that leads to that successful relationship as well, because you can't just keep working with a broken system.
Yes.
And if the system is broken, it eventually affects everybody.
Yeah. The other thing is what I've learned.
Yeah,
in
you're
our
you're
experience
smiling.
with our
Yeah.
clients is not just saying yes.
Oh,
I mean, you've touched on this about telling them that if they give us these instructions, we do it, and it's not working. We give that feedback, right?
yes.
So it's not just, okay, we'll do this, but at the back of your mind, oh, huh, how,
Mm.
right? It's during that conversation about direction, giving the team direction, uh, we right away ask questions so that it clarifies what they want us to do,
Yeah.
and maybe and most of the time collaborate with them
Yeah.
on what we're supposed to do. So it's not just saying yes, we'll do this, but
See,
not understanding
and,
and
and and the thing is, you can't always be a yes man.
yeah, no,
Nobody who's ever been a yes man uh has provided that much value, because they lose opportunities when they don't hear the hardball questions, when they don't hear the issues that are arising. You can't just be like, oh, if we tell them this, the client will get mad, maybe they'll get rid of us. Won't they get madder if
yeah.
you don't tell them just exactly what kind of
You know
opportunities
what?
they're missing out on.
What I usually tell the agents that I personally manage right now is that if there's anything that's preventing you from doing your job, and you tell me, and because I'm the manager, and you tell me, and I don't act on it, then that's on me. But if there's anything that's preventing you from doing your job and you don't tell anyone, that's on you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And then when you do step into a managerial role with your and in front of your agents, you also act as that like sounding board for
Yes.
them as well. Because I think being able to manage a successful relationship goes both ways. You have to keep the client happy,
Yes,
but you
and
also
you're
have to keep your agents
absolutely, yeah.
happy as well. And
You have
because
to advocate for your agent's
yeah,
needs.
like if my agents have concerns, I don't care. Obviously, I care to the point that you have to set up meetings and say, these are some pain points that we're having. Help us help ourselves in order for us to successfully help
Yes.
you. And I feel like when you wrap all of those up into one package, it comes down to being able to communicate effectively
Yes.
with your client to let them know. So it's always show them that you have genuine concern, but at the
Yeah.
same time be transparent with issues that are arising.
Yes.
I think one last thing that I would add to this. You know how we talk about adaptability as
Yeah.
well. I mean, it's part of the key reasons why you're outsourced anyway, is be able to scale as needed, but also be adaptable to any situation. Like it's not always going to be that you're going to have a great run. Companies are, in effect, not, I wouldn't say destined to. You know how a lot of companies actually fail. 4 out of 5 businesses effectively fail. And how do you prevent the company that you're working for from being that kind of statistic? You
Yeah.
know, it's not just one way. You can't just keep telling them what's wrong. They have to be able to tell you there's something wrong with you guys, and you have to be able to look at yourself and say, "Oh shit, yeah, right." And how do we fix that? And at the same time, again, going back to that last aspect of adaptability for me, is a company might not always have like this is the direction that we're doing, but what if we did something
Yes.
differently?
Yes.
You
I
know,
mean, that's happened a lot of times.
yes, and you know how like one of our clients actually moved from handling one product to changing our approach and maybe handle more products instead of like, you know, it's not happening for us that you're having one person do one thing, two-person do two things. What if you train them all at the same
Yes.
time?
Cross train. Yeah.
Cross them all at the same time, and you have one man down, di ba? That's I think that's one of the suggestions that we've always been like willing and able to suggest. And we're not always like yes man in that sense. I think it's more like, okay, if something's not working, let's all put our heads together and find a solution. But the
Yes.
important thing again is that you are part
Yes.
of that solution that
Yes.
you
You can't just
suggest.
you can't just tell them, oh, we have a problem but also tell them this is what we think could be the solution. Not just identifying problems, but also being vested enough to give solutions.
Because at the end of the day, your company's success is your success
Yes.
as well. And happy to say, I mean, I think I'm very, very happy to say whenever we hand out those contracts that say we're going to be working with you for 1 year, and then
Let's see.
let's talk about the renewal or contract. A lot of our clients would actually say, "Oh, we're absolutely working with you
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe not until the end of time, but almost enough to say, let's just continue moving forward. Although one thing that we really have to revisit some of those contracts, and then it's important that you revisit a contract. That's important because
Yeah.
there some things might change.
Scope of work might
The
change.
scope
Yeah.
of work might change. You might find yourself doing more than what was initially
Yeah.
done, and you need to reset those expectations and say, are you still paying us enough? Or maybe to a certain extent, maybe you're not paying us enough, or maybe you're paying us too much for the work that you're doing. And I mean, in my case, it's not saying pay us less. It's more like, how can we provide more
Value.
value
Yeah.
now that we find
So
ourselves
that you
like,
feel that you're paying
yeah,
us
like
enough.
if you hired 5 agents and you're not getting enough volume, how do you change that?
Yes.
And like for me, when we had that one agent who was initially supposed to be handling stuff, and then she's not doing enough, and then we told them, okay, what else can she do
Yes. What else?
so that she can provide more value for the amount of money that you're paying her, and us through her. And that's, I think that was very well appreciated as well.
Yeah. So just to sum it up, I think, when we work with our clients, we definitely treat them as partners. I mean, that's where this is like,
Dare I say family,
yeah,
if
it's
possible?
no, yeah, family partners. We're vested in their success, and that's why we want to learn about them. We want to understand their product, their company, how it works, even understand what their expectations are about our relationship. And to be able to do that, we need to communicate effectively with them, and encourage them to communicate with us when problems arise.
And then we talked about transparency,
Yes.
and being able to talk to them about the issues. And then we talked about visibility.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
You absolutely need to be visible. You need to be able to tell them almost as if you're working in the same office,
Yeah.
and your client can see you
Yes.
over there at that corner there. Like if you suddenly disappear, that's a cause for concern. So again, being several thousand miles away, you just want to be able to say, hi, I'm just walking my dog, or getting coffee, or have to run to the restroom a little bit, because it's not always call center. We have to like aux 3 aux 4, but you still need to have
Yes.
time away from your keyboard,
Yes.
like picking stuff up, Grab, Food Panda, or whatever. But again, visibility is key. And then lastly, being able to give and receive feedback is also key. Don't think that they're unwelcome suggestions. I mean, don't just go throwing out suggestions.
Yes.
Make sure that your suggestions are backed up by data, fact
Yes.
support from the things that you're doing. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
So let us know what you think about our strategy in retaining customers. If you have other strategies that you're currently using, let us know. We're always interested in learning these things.
if you have a successful client that you've maintained a great relationship with, what made that relationship a success? Because like Penny said, we're interested in knowing that. Maybe we want to be able to apply that to ourselves as well, and make sure that our own successful relationships are either even made better, or maybe we're moving away from current best practices. So
Yes.
there. And if you're still listening, now that you're here at this end point, thank you very much. I'd like to say
Thank you.
personally, thank you. Please feel free to follow us on our other channels. My name is Francis.
My name is Penny, and
And
this has been Outsourcing and More.
See you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.